Hello, and welcome to She Comes By, a podcast where I interrogate my friends about their sexuality. Today, it is the first episode of 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here with me. I hope you had a safe and happy holiday, and I'm just sending you lots of love from where I am to wherever you are. This episode is a really exciting one. We have the amazing Natalie Ramirez, who, among many other things, produces the podcast at LA Opera and runs the community engagement programs there. We talk about a plethora of topics, including bisexual movies, harmonica, running, and of course, bisexuality. I'm excited for you to come by and join us in this new year. Hello, Natalie. I asked people to introduce themselves on the show. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, Alex. I'm Natalie Ramirez. I am 28 years old. I live here in Los Angeles, and I am an arts administrator who works at a performing arts center in downtown LA.
Awesome. How did Josh find you to be on the pod?
It was kind of, I guess, a crazy random happenstance, you could say. I showed up to a Quaker meeting out of the blue because I've actually been working on just getting my life back in order and trying out a bunch of new things recently. So I showed up to this meeting, met Josh, and just started talking, and then podcasts came up. And part of my work, I actually produced 2 podcasts. We just started nerding out, and he told me, about the podcasts he produces and a little bit about this show. So I'd love to say that I'm a longtime listener, first-time caller, but I very recently was introduced, but love the concept. And as a out and proud bisexual, super thrilled to be here.
Yay, that's awesome. And yeah, I've known Josh for about a year now, and I like to say he kind of fast tracks friendship. I think within the first, month of meeting Josh, he became my podcast producer. I came to his birthday dinner. He set me up with one of his coworkers. It was just really, we got in there real quick. So we love Josh.
It sounds like everyone needs a Josh in their life. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, Natalie, what are you up to these days? What are you spending your time doing?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, getting my life back in order. So I've been working as an arts administrator for about a decade now. And so much of my life has been work focused and really building up my career, especially since the pandemic. I went to grad school. I got an internship. I started working full time. And so everything has just been about going from getting interested in the field to being fully immersed in the field and building up my personal stability and everything. And so now I finally have set a boundary with myself that I'm actually going to enjoy life, which is super exciting for me. So earlier this year, I got some unfortunately bad news about my mom's health, and that kind of triggered a bit of a downward spiral, to be honest. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I think I'd be taking this news a lot better if I took time to step back and knew where I was as a person, and I could be able to be there for my mom more wholly. So I got in the car and drove to Sedona, Arizona, which is a really good place to get out of town and think about things. And I cracked open my journal and I just wrote down what do I want out of life? What do I not want? And what do I want to be doing right now? And so literally in the past 8 to 10 weeks, I've just been exploring all of those things. So I bought a harmonica because I've always wanted to learn how to play the harmonica. And I've just never spent the $20-$30 on a harmonica and looked up a YouTube lesson. So that's ready to go. I have it next to me. Have not played it yet, but I'm going to get there. I really started taking a look at my health, and because of my work schedule, working in performing arts, we work late nights and weekends. So I was always just a grab fast food on the way home. And, part of my mom's health thing was related to, we kind of just have the bad lottery of genetics. So trying to focus on improving my diet and going to the gym more often. And then in going to the gym, I was on the treadmill one day and I was I wonder if I could run, because as a kid, I was always that 20-minute miler. And I was I'm feeling a little bit better. I want to see if can I run? And I can. So crazy thing that I ended up running 30 minutes straight one day and was this is really fun. I don't know. I've never tried this before. I don't want to spend all my money on all the crazy gear, but I did buy a cool pair of headphones and a nice pair of shoes. And I started running, and I woke up early to go running the other day and I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. This is like thrilling. And then everyone always talks about like, oh, don't you want to look a certain way or be a certain type of person when you get like more athletic or anything? And it's not that at all. Like, I just feel so good all the time now. And it's not necessarily because I'm running, but I think it's because I'm taking the time to like invest in myself. And I literally was laying in bed one day, early one morning, and I thought, I don't want to go for a run. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to the gym or whatever. And then I thought, if my boss told me I had a 5 a.m. meeting in Bakersfield, I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and get in my car and I'd go to Bakersfield. So like, why can't I apply that energy to myself? So yeah, that's a really long-winded answer, but the short of it is I'm doing all the things just to like make myself happy.
I'm nearly speechless, partly because I have so many follow-up questions. Well, I'm just going to work backwards because running, I also started running recently. It came at a time where I think I was also dealing with like some like family related stuff and just like a lot of things were going on. And I was like, you know what? Sure. Like my friend asked me, like, do you run? And I said, yes. And when I said yes, I meant no. But like, I have jogged, was the extent of running that I had done. Uh-huh. I don't think I'd ever run more than like 3 miles, in one session. But then, yeah, I signed up for a half marathon and that was in early November. But all the things you were just saying, for me, it was like, I'm naturally waking up early. Like I feel a lot better. I still kind of have to begrudgingly like make myself actually like go on the run. But then once I do, I enjoy the effects of it. And it's gotten to where, like you said, like, if this was for work, I would motivate myself to do it. It's just kind of like prioritizing yourself. And like you said, like, okay, like, what am I doing if I'm not prioritizing the things that like help me feel better? You know, work is important, friends, life, social life, romantic life, family, like all that stuff is important. But if I don't take care of myself first, like it's all gonna like fall apart is how I feel anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And congratulations on the half marathon. That's like massive. I don't think I'm anywhere near that point. That's like such a huge milestone. And I'm a super slow runner still. But for me, it's just being curious about, you know, all these new things I've never tried before. And that's what's really exciting.
That's awesome. And then, okay, so you drove to Sedona. When I was driving out to live in LA,
uh-huh.
me and my brother like passed through Sedona and we stayed there a night. And it was beautiful and so cool. Also so woo-woo. So I'm curious, like, how did you pick Sedona? Was it for the woo? Was the woo just happened to be there? What was it like?
Okay, so it's a very long story. Everybody strap in. But growing up, I actually used to go to Flagstaff a lot, which is just north of Sedona, because my mom had a friend out there who was also here from Los Angeles and then got married, moved up to Flagstaff, had a ranch. So we'd go out there and I'd live my best cowboy life. I'd like get on her little ponies and pretend I was like a cowboy out in the West. And I'm talking very young. This is not like last week. This is like 8 or 9. And so I had all these really good memories of Flagstaff and we just haven't been out there maybe since around that time when I was like 10, 11. So I just knew I needed to get out of town and clear my head. And I also am obsessed with the Grand Canyon. I've been there twice before. And I was like, what if I just drove to the Grand Canyon and like saw what happened? And so got in the car early morning Friday, drove to the Grand Canyon. And like I said, this was at a downward spiral. So I like got to the edge of the Grand Canyon and was like, uh-oh, you know, that's a big drop. And I was like, Natalie, no, focus, like go for a walk, like you'll feel better. And so I was walking around and I had my camera with me, which is another thing. Photography used to be a hobby of mine. Haven't done that in years. So I brought my camera and I just started noticing like all these people who were there with like loved ones, people with family, people with friends. There was a lot of couples like just holding hands or like sharing a meal on the edge of the canyon. And I just started taking pictures of them. And I know that sounds creepy, but like in an artsy way, you know, like from the back, not like trying to intrude on anything. But it just like was such a feel good moment that in this beautiful place, there were these people who are like really enjoying spending time with each other and like looking out at this majestic landscape. And so from there, I drove into Flagstaff for the night. I just randomly like stopped at this one restaurant because I'd been driving all day nonstop other than the Grand Canyon. And I was like, I just need to get a meal really quick. So I just parked, hopped into this one place. and ended up having like the best meal of my life. Almost cried. It was so good. And because I was there alone, the waitress was like super friendly and like talking to me, you know, like stopping her rounds to like come and check on me and everything. And she was just so nice and friendly and like wanted to talk about everything. And then I had the best filet mignon like ever. And I was like, you need to tell the chef. And she was like, oh, actually we have like a comment book. Do you want to write a comment? And I like wrote all about how this was the best steak of my life. And then as I was sitting there, like eating the steak, it reminded me of my one friend in New York who's like a huge foodie. And I was like, how crazy is it that I could be alone in the desert eating the steak and like thinking of my friend? Like, that's such a beautiful thing. So I like text her a picture of the steak and we were talking. And I was like, I love that that like connected us in that moment. Spent the night in Flagstaff, woke up, went for a little hike, and then was like, I'll just go to Sedona for a couple of days. So it wasn't like, you know, for all of the vortexes and the natural healing. It's just because I had passed by maybe one time when we were in Flagstaff as a kid, and I just remember it being so beautiful. And it still is. Oh my gosh. It was cold. It was a little rainy, but just seeing like the green trees and the red rocks was like so healing. And I was like, you know what? I'm an independent woman. I'm going to go for a hike. I'm not going to be scared to go on this hike alone by myself with my thoughts. And I'm going to have a good time. And I got out there and the hike was longer than I thought. And I was dying and I probably didn't have enough water. And I crawled up at the end of this hike on top of this huge rock. And I was like, gosh, like I could just like scream from up here and that'll be so cathartic. And as I was about to, like these two, I want to say kids, they were like slightly younger than me. These two younger people like climbed up right underneath me. And this guy was like, hey, can you take our photo? I was like, yeah, of course. And then got down on his knee and proposed to his girlfriend. And I was like, first of all, can't go anywhere. Like, I'm out here trying to have like a sad single girl moment. And these two people are getting engaged. I thought this would be like super cathartic and like dramatic for me. And they're having like the most memorable moment of their lifetime, like on the red rock getting engaged. And so like literally the hike back, I just remember laughing and crying. And then it started pouring rain. And so I was laughing and crying and running. And it was just like such an incredible moment. And the whole trip just like really taught me that I need to like, again, be doing things that make me happy, be independent again, get back out there. I did answer one work email from the trail, but you know, aside from that, committing to like
steps.
Really, yeah, baby steps, committing
Progress,
to like really
progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Just like being invested in myself again. So I drove back from that trip and was just like, you know, this is the change I have to make, is set some boundaries, do things for myself. And just like Sedona, maybe the vibes and the vortexes did something, but you know, the red rocks and the green trees did just as much.
The red rocks and the green trees did just as much. Oh my gosh. I relate so much to that feeling of like when you're traveling alone, sometimes that's when you feel the most connected to, yeah, just like people you care about. Cause it's like, oh, this meal is reminding me of this one person. I'm going to text them. Or yeah, this thing that I'm seeing reminds me of my college friends. I'm going to like text the group chat for the first time in forever.
Right.
And then, like, it's like a mixture of these things where it's like you feel connected because you're being reminded of all these people, but you're still enjoying the solitude of it, or enjoying those, like, small connections that you make with, like, strangers or waiters. And it's just, it's lovely.
It's totally the inverse of, I feel like nowadays it's so easy to be connected with everyone all the time because of technology, but, like, it's also so isolating. So it's really interesting when you choose to like kind of isolate yourself and travel by yourself, that you find like those really interesting and meaningful moments of connection. So yeah, it was definitely worth doing.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. And for that commitment to self-discovery, and it sounds like you're really doing it. Like, again, like having your hobbies and interests, and just almost like committing to have fun again and to play, which is a thing I think like we don't give ourselves permission to do in like the late
huge
20s, mid 30s type of deal.
No, it's you totally have to give yourself permission. I come from my dad's family moved here from Mexico in the 70s. So I have an immigrant family background. And so much of it is, you know, we came here for a reason. You need to do better. You need to do more. You need to be successful. And so now I feel like I'm not joking when I say I've wanted to play the harmonica since I was in high school. But when I was in high school, it was like, you know, the AP classes and the tests and the extracurriculars, etc. So I'm like, I'm 28 years old. I'm going to play the harmonica. And Alex, when I get on stage and I have my recital, you will be invited.
I will. Oh my God, I will be there. Well, now that we've talked about how important hobbies and joy and discovering interests outside of professional life is, I would love to ask you about your career. I think you work somewhere pretty cool, the LA Opera.
That is correct, yes.
I know part of what you do is you run the LA Opera podcast. What else do you do as part of your role there?
Yeah, so I'm actually in operations for the Community Engagement and Learning Department, which is called LA Opera Connects. Kind of say it's like a organization within an organization. So LA Opera, as most people around LA might have seen like the banners on the lights or like billboards or whatever for the main stage operas. Most people are familiar with that work. But I actually do the community side of that. So if you've ever wanted to join a community choir, we have programs for that. If you've ever wanted to perform in an opera, we have programs for that. We also send singers into hospitals, long-term care facilities. We have school residency programs. We run over like 30 programs annually. So it really runs the gamut. But yeah, I also produce our podcasts, LA Opera Behind the Curtain and LA Opera's Detras del Telón, which is our Spanish podcast. And I do operations. So kind of the boring end of all of that is the finance, the contracts, the scheduling. You know, it's not the glamour. I'm not on stage. But if you've ever seen someone on stage, you have to know there's about 40 people backstage making that moment happen. So
that's so incredible. And yeah, so many people and so much work goes into, you know, just who's on stage or even who's on mic on the podcast. But it did, because I've listened to a few episodes and the format's really cool. It seems like it's not just kind of like the same person every time talking. It's you interview different people. You bring on academics. You bring on community members. I think one of the episodes I listened to had a few different community organizations that it sounds like you partner with pretty closely. What's it like to kind of run that side of the podcast, and how do you kind of figure out what format you want to have for each episode?
Yeah, great question. Oh my gosh. So much planning goes into the podcast because right now we are doing a weekly format. We've committed to weekly podcasting. So every Tuesday at 11 a.m., you'll find a new episode of Behind the Curtain wherever you listen to podcasts. But the format really changes. And right now, LA Opera is celebrating its 40th anniversary. So we kind of have a few special mini series. So we take a few people who have been on the podcast before. They're kind of fan favorites for us, and we've given them all mini series. So right now, LA Opera's chorus director, Jeremy Frank, has a mini series where he'll interview cast members who are actually in the main stage shows. Our music director, James Conlon, this is also his final season as music director as LA Opera. So we created a mini series just for him to like talk through his legacy, some of his favorite moments of the last 20 years that he's been with us. And then you mentioned the scholars. So we have Dr. Christy Brown Montesano, who is at UCLA School of Music, and she does kind of like a historical deep dive on some of the operas. And Dr. Tiffany Kuo right now is doing a mini series about opera in the community. So it's not necessarily opera music out in the community, but she'll take a community organization or arts organization and she'll tie it back to one of our main stage operas. So one of the episodes that we did this year that was really cool was West Side Story was our season opener, which may or may not be an opera depending on who you ask, but La Plaza de Cultura y Artes was actually featuring a exhibition called the East Side Sound and a bunch of like garage bands and music that came out of East Los Angeles. So taking the East Side Sound and West Side Story, we created a pretty cool narrative there talking about their arts exhibitions at their organization and then what you were going to see on our main stage show. So it's really amorphous. It takes a lot of different shapes. The planning happens a year in advance. So we are currently planning our 26-27 season and what all of those interviews and everything is going to be like. And it's a lot of fun. It definitely keeps me on my toes, especially Detras del Telón, because I actually don't speak Spanish. So I have to incorporate the help of some of my colleagues to edit our Spanish language episodes. But I do still, book the talent and we build the episodes together. And that's been a lot of fun because we always want to make sure that we have plenty of content for our Spanish speaking audience as well and tie those back to the shows we have in Spanish on the main stage. So that's been a lot of fun too, even though it's been a huge challenge as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last question about work, I promise. But how did you get involved in LA Opera? And do you have a favorite opera?
Ooh, that is a really good question. So I actually don't have an opera background. I've really done a lot of learning on the job as far as like the opera side of things. My background was in museums, museum curation, education, archaeology. Actually, I spent a couple of summers on an archaeological dig, and I really thought that I was going to like work in antiquities and museums. And then when 2020 rolled around, so funny. The funniest thing happened. And my life plans kind of like got flipped. So I went to undergrad in New York, came back to LA right before the pandemic. And then because of the pandemic, ended up staying in LA. So I went to grad school out here instead of in London, like I had planned to do, and ended up getting my grad degree in arts management, which is like all the things I mentioned, like the operational side of museums and nonprofit spaces. And one of my professors happened to know someone at LA Opera, and they were like, Natalie's looking for a capstone project. It sounds like it would be a really good fit for your department, because my interest has always been and really is in making the arts more accessible and inclusive. And that's like a huge part of what LA Opera Connects, that really is what LA Opera Connects does. So they paired me up as an intern to work on my final capstone project. And then one thing happened after another. Someone left the company. Someone went on maternity leave. I ended up getting part-time position and then a full-time position. And so now I've been there for 5 years, and I just really love it because it's just such a cool intersection of arts inclusion, accessibility, increasing diversity, and then all these really cool things I never thought I'd get to do, like produce a podcast. As far as my favorite opera, I am a huge Mozart fan, and if there are any opera fans listening to this podcast, I might get some boos and hisses, but I love comedic opera. I'm a huge comedy fan, so The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart is my favorite. I just think it's so funny and witty and silly, and then the music's also beautiful, which is like such a bonus. So that's probably my favorite.
Ah, that's awesome. In preparation for this interview, on YouTube, I watched Carmen, but then I watched Don Juan No Existe. And that was really cool, too.
You probably know more than I do then at this point.
I highly doubt that. But yeah, it was just so cool to kind of like get in the headspace of like, because I was a theater kid, but I never like musical theater and like plays and like even like Shakespeare for like more like classical stuff was always kind of like in my purview. But somehow I never got into the opera scene. So, wow, it must be so cool. This isn't an opera podcast. If you want to listen to an opera podcast, you should listen to LA Opera Behind the Curtain, produced by Natalie Ramirez so beautifully. But this podcast is called She Comes By. So we have to ask our guest Natalie the real question. Natalie, are you bi? Why or why not?
I am. I'm very much proud to be bi. I don't know if there is a why, but I do like to say that everyone is bi and they just don't know it yet. And I know that's so problematic and not true, but that's how I live my life.
It's interesting. Something that my interview with Ryan Letts, we were kind of talking about, like, again, like the fluidity of sexuality and gender, and how it's unfortunate that there's a stereotype of like bisexuality being kind of a stepping stone. It's either a stepping stone towards gay or it's experimentation and then you go back to actually being straight. And like sometimes that is true. And like that would be okay. If we lived in a perfect world, like it would just be okay for it to be a stepping stone, or it would be okay for it to be a place of experimentation before you realize, oh, actually, like, I think that's not for me. But because we have to fight so hard to be seen as legitimate, that those kind of stereotypes get like shit on. Or I know there was some controversy around like Betty Who, I think, said something about Renee Rapp like coming out as a lesbian, and I'm gonna misquote Betty Who for sure, but like she said something like, yeah, it's like great that she's saying who she is, but if one day she decides to like date a man, like we should be okay with that too. And then Renee Rapp was like, okay, well, I'm saying I'm a lesbian, like don't like put that on me. And it's like, that's such a legitimate reaction because it's such a stereotype for people to say, oh, you just haven't found the right person yet. Mm-hmm. But I just wish there was a little bit more, not like Renee Rapp totally has the right. And like, she did a good job saying like, nope, like that doesn't fit on me. Stop trying to put that on me. But I think I almost wish Betty Who had just like been saying that, but without the example, because clearly like that doesn't fit Renee Rapp very well. But I think the point is, if it was more accepted that things can be fluid, and if we weren't discriminated against so much for having queerness around, like, we would be okay with that.
It's so true. Like, I really respect everyone's journey and the way that they want to identify or label themselves, but it does get really tricky when, you know, there's so much biphobia out there and people really do just see it as a stepping stone, or a lot of people have even said that it's kind of hateful to be bi because that just it can mean one thing or another thing, and everyone has a different definition for what bi means. But I don't know, for me, it just really means kind of a plethora of things that I, you know, can be attracted to someone who is the same gender as me and someone who's not. So, you know, I don't use it as a way to discriminate against anyone. I really do mean it in the terms of what I think being bi is, that you're just open, and that oftentimes gender doesn't really factor in, or not in the same way that it does for a cis heterosexual individual.
Totally. So proudly identify as bisexual. Do you use any other words to describe your sexuality? How do you describe your sexuality?
Yeah, bisexual first and foremost, but I think a lot of times I say queer because my appearance sometimes throws people off. So I use queer to maybe make people feel more comfortable. I like to joke, you know, it's not a phase, but it is a phase, because I often go through like kind of hills and valleys, or I don't know how you want to say it, like a roller coaster of my appearance, but like I'll shave my hair off, or I'll grow my hair out long, or I'll dye my hair like unconventional colors. Or ever since I was in high school, I'll go through like wearing men's clothing, or I wear very high femme clothing. So sometimes I say queer just because I don't necessarily identify as non-binary or gender queer or agender. I just like to play with my physical appearance in a way that like modifies how people perceive my gender. So yeah, I feel like queer and bisexual just kind of like captures it all.
Yeah, I totally relate. I think it's not a She Comes By episode if I don't mention the time that I shaved my hair and people immediately started like using different pronouns for me. And I was like,
I love it.
Like, and it was just like, and not in a way where I was like, oh no, like it was fun. It was playful. And it's like,
yeah, I take no offense to it. Like, you can call me he, him, they, them. I prefer she, her. But yeah, when I like go to a restaurant and the waiter will be like, excuse me, sir. And then they like get a closer look at my mascara and eyeliner, and then they like get confused. And I'm like, it's not that serious, dude. Like, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Like, sure. Yes, I can be sir for right now. That's fine.
Yeah. It's like, it's very much, you can see like they're going through something. Like you are, it's like, I feel fine, but you so seem to be having a moment.
Yeah. And I don't know, to me, like there's so much discourse about gender and identity politics right now. And to me, it's just, it is what it is. I think maybe I've been very lucky that I haven't received, nothing significantly negative has happened to me because of my physical appearance, but I don't take my physical appearance that seriously. So I'm just like super comfortable in, kind of playing with how people perceive my gender or sexuality. It doesn't really make a difference to me.
Have you always felt that way? Because I really didn't start to play with my gender presentation much. And even I kind of still don't. I think, again, it was more, I feel like I dress and act this way I always have. It's really just like the length of my hair will change how people perceive me. Uh-huh. But I will say, like, I think I didn't shave my head till I was 30 almost for a reason, because I think I wouldn't have had that confidence in myself. I might not have been able to realize like, oh, you're having a moment. Like I'm just the same, but something has the way you see me has shifted. The way I am hasn't shifted. I owe some of that to like having a little more of a sense of self as I kind of like got a little older. Have you always felt that way, or do you think it's come from kind of having a deeper sense of self?
That's really a good question, because I don't think I've ever really viewed it that way. I don't know if it was like a lot of self-confidence. It might have just been like a lot of angst, because I definitely started, if you ask my parents, they'll tell you that I was like kind of tomboyish since I was a kid, because I hated the colors pink and purple, and I didn't want girly things and all that kind of stuff.
Tell me you're bisexual without telling me that you're bisexual.
Yeah, but me and my sister are like really close in age, so we were still getting dressed up in like matching tutu dresses and everything, but like I had to have like the red or blue. I didn't want pink or purple. But then when I got to high school, I just was so fascinated by kind of like an androgynous look. Shout out to Tilda Swinton and everything she's done for the bisexual community. But I was like super obsessed with like that androgynous look. And I also started getting really into, like around the time I was like 11 or 12, Japanese heavy metal bands. And a lot of them really play with gender and makeup and all sorts of looks. So I went through like a goth phase and then an emo phase. And then in high school, I was like, fuck it. And literally just forced my dad to take me shopping in like the men's section, I think, of JCPenney's, and like bought a pair of slacks. And I remember going to a thrift shop and buying like a matching pair of suspenders with like a matching bow tie. And then from there, I started collecting suspenders and bow ties. And I had like this really, it was so like 2012. Oh my God. It was like a really like dapper androgynous look. And I was like so confident in it. And my parents were probably freaking out. I think my mom like rationalized it because I would still wear makeup and like do my hair, but then I was like in all men's clothing. But yeah, that's kind of where it started from. And I don't know if I was like so confident in that look, but it was really just like an angsty teen, like I'm going to wear what I want to wear and I don't care what anyone thinks about it.
Totally. Something that I love about fashion nowadays is that it's everything I wanted to wear when I was in middle school, except now I can buy whatever I want and I can wear it. And like I can look like the angsty teenager of my dreams, but 15 years later.
Yes, I literally earlier this year, I went to a Duran Gray concert, and they're a Japanese heavy metal band that I've been obsessed with since I was a teen, and they're finally in LA. And so I was like, I need the boots. And I went and I bought like a giant knee-high pair of like 10-inch tall boots with all the straps and buckles and everything. And I was like, if I was 13 again, oh my gosh, my little heart wouldn't be able to take it. But I was like so excited. I was like, I have adult money. I can buy the big boots.
It's so nice. Okay, you said Japanese metal, and you're talking about fashion. So I have to ask you, did you / do you read Nana?
I don't, but I am familiar.
Okay. Nana, for those who don't know, it was one of the most famous like mangas back in like early 2010s. Actually Vivienne West, because lots of the art was like based on like Vivienne Westwood fashion. So Vivienne Westwood actually just came out with like a 25-year anniversary for the 25th anniversary of Nana. Came out with a Vivienne Westwood collaboration, and it was very cool. It's also it's like so queer coded. Like it's like these two women are very much in love with each other, even though like it doesn't actually happen. Unfortunately, spoiler alert. It's these two women in Tokyo, and one of them is in a band, and so music is a big thing. So I was just curious.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. I am a huge like anime and manga fan, but I can't do the ones where it's like queer baiting and then nothing happens. I get so angry. So like I am familiar with Nana, but I never got into it because I was like, if this is going to end in nothing, I don't want it. It's all or I'm not going to get involved.
No. And I totally respect that. I think like I started reading it when I was like in middle school, and this was like before I realized I was queer. And so like there's this part of me where it's just like, oh, these girls don't know they want to kiss. But I know they want to kiss. And just like when I was reading it, I was like, I didn't know I wanted to kiss girls, but like I did.
Yes.
This actually leads us into my next question, which was, when did you realize you weren't straight?
Oh my gosh, so young, but I don't think I had the right vocabulary for it. I don't think I knew I wasn't straight, but I knew that I liked boys and girls. Like there wasn't any one particular like queer awakening moment, but just like watching movies, I remember like being attracted to both the male and female characters. Like how could you watch Pirates of the Caribbean and not be attracted to everyone in that movie? First of all, how can you watch The Mummy and not be attracted to both Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser? Like there's so many like points in my childhood where I can like point to movies and be like, I was so confused during this movie because like I could not tell who I was supposed to like more. And I think I like both of them equally. And so I've kind of just like continued on that path through middle school, high school. And then when I started getting more into like Japanese heavy metal bands and stuff, I was kind of like looking at these guys. They're mostly men at least back then, it was mostly men in visual kei bands. And a lot of them did like cross dress. And that was super confusing to me because I was like, I love this, this is exactly like, this is the perfect man, is a man who is dressed like a woman, and vice versa. And I was like, I don't know, like, I do not have the vocabulary for this. I grew up in a really conservative area with a very religious and conservative family. So like, I couldn't explore that beyond, you know, what the internet could offer an 11-year-old, which back at that time was probably too much, but still not enough, you know, like it wasn't like guided. I didn't know any queer people at the time. So like, I couldn't explore it in a way that like made sense for me. I only knew like what was out there and what other people were looking into, or like what was there for, you know, like in popular media, but I didn't know how that related to me. So it wasn't really until college when I was like, I know that I'm not straight. So I'm going to like start going out and meeting other queer people, and I'm just going to like figure it out. And that's really when I was like, okay, I'm definitely bi. It was like, that did not happen until I was like 18, 19.
Yeah. Similarly, for me, it was Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
A classic.
Anakin and Padme. Both. I was obsessed with Padme. Who could say why? She was just so cool.
So hot. Yes. And, and also cool. Yeah. Very empowering and strong.
Hot and cool. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, I can't, like, this dynamic, like, I'm so, like, I must just, like, really like sad, moody boys. And it's like, multiple things can be true at once.
And that's to say that all media is really bi media if you look at it from the lens of like, I could be in between both of them.
Exactly. All media is bi media. Actually, it was funny. When I was watching Carmen, I'm at my parents' house for the holidays, so my brother was here, and he knew I was doing this podcast later, and he was like, oh, have you found like the bisexual angle in this yet? And I was like, no, it's pretty hetero. But then I was like, well, actually, if you think about it, maybe Carmen like has these like all these men. It might be kind of like the mean lesbian thing where it's like she doesn't actually like any of them. She just like keeps moving around because she doesn't actually like them, or like she actually wants to be dating a woman. She wants to like be with like her cigarette girlfriends, and like, but she's like leading these men on.
There are theories.
There are theories. There are theories we could go to. Yeah. Has there ever been a time when you questioned your sexuality? Like, it sounds like, kind of like, again, like not having the vocabulary for it, but once you realize like, oh, I think I'm bi, like, was there any kind of like exploration after that, or it was just kind of like, nah, this feels right? Yeah.
Well, I think when I first really like told myself like, yes, I am bi, you know, I think there was a lot of questioning whether or not that's true because of that narrative of like, you know, this is just a stepping stone, or especially because it happened when I was 18, 19 going to college, you know, is this just your away from home phase? So there was a little bit of questioning. And then that was swiftly ended when I actually started dating this girl who we like went on a few dates. We had a great time together. We were super into each other. And then when I told her that I was bi, she was like repulsed, actually. Wow. She was like, oh no, like as a lesbian, like I can't be seen dating someone who's bi. Like I'm so not into that. Like that's really awful and gross and terrible. And so again, maybe it was just the angst in me, but I like really doubled down because I was like, how could you hate? And maybe that was like the young person naivety in me. I was like, how could you just hate someone for who they are? But I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's like gross or terrible to be bi. What are you talking about? So I like really doubled down at that point and was like, I'm sorry that you're having a moment, but like, I am very comfortable and confident in like this identity.
Wow. Well, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's the worst. And I think, again, in a previous episode, I was talking to my friend Rebecca, and similarly, like there was a woman who we weren't even dating. We were just like, literally, I met her in Barcelona and we were like traveling at the same time and we were making out, and she was like, well, you're going to marry a man. And I was just like, what? Like,
don't put that on me.
One, don't put that on me. Also, like, what's that to you? We're not going to get married, obviously. Like, right. Like you are from Germany. I'm from the US. We are currently in Barcelona for a short period of time. Like, what does marriage have to do with any of this? But yeah, I don't know. I'm really sorry that happened. But I'm also like, I'm so glad, again, you were like that angst. Like, I love the doubling down.
It's been a driving factor in my life. Yeah. No, and it's a good thing because, you know, like clearly we weren't compatible for each other. So that just helped me figure that out faster.
Totally. Flowing into the next question, what role does sexuality play in your life?
Gosh, not a huge one yet. So I actually, going back to where we started this conversation with I'm going into a new era of my life, I guess we could call it. I actually haven't been on a date in about 7 years. So I can say with confidence that my sexuality doesn't really play a huge role in my professional life. I'm very blessed that we do have a lot of queer colleagues at LA Opera, which is super exciting and fun. And it's such an accepting environment and I love it. But, when you work with the community, you kind of tend to draw back certain aspects of your personality and not necessarily like closet yourself or anything that severe. But, you always have to approach people and meet them where they are. So I kind of have like what I call like my community engagement, almost like kindergarten teacher persona. It's kind of like a retail persona. It's very friendly, surface level. I want to get to know you and hear your story. And like my personality doesn't need to take the center stage. But going back to the dating thing with all of this and having spent so much time focusing on my career and kind of, for lack of a better word, whitewashing my personality, I do want to get back into like exploring my queerness. And when I get back out on the dating scene in 2026, which it's on my list, so it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. I do kind of want to just explore more of the queer community here in Los Angeles. I had a really great queer community in New York where I went to undergrad and then I kind of lost touch and didn't really get back into it here in LA. And I have a lot of friends now who, are willing to take me to the bars that they like to go to or some of the community events that they want to go to. And I've always turned it down because I was working or I was too tired from work. And so I want to pick that back up and put myself back out there, not just for dating, but like community building. And then once it gets to dating, I'll have to, maybe there will be some biphobia I'll have to encounter and maybe I'll meet some really great people. But yeah, I'm interested in how my sexuality can be explored in new ways in this new phase of my life.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Congratulations. I also took like a period of like almost 5 years where I wasn't having sex or dating. And like, it's interesting to like kind of like be in another like phase of my life now where like I kind of like have reintroduced like sex and dating and romance and all that stuff. But I felt so grateful that I had. And part of it was the pandemic, which like it started off like not on purpose, like not, it started off.
There was nothing we could do at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, and I like went on like 1 or 2 like Zoom dates and I went on one like walking date and I was just like, I'm like, this is not
different.
It's different. It's not working. I was just like, okay, I think I'm going to shelf it for a while. And then like, other things happened and I kind of got on this own, like I got on a different like recovery, self-improvement, like journey. And then it ended up like, again, it ended up being like over 5 years, kind of like not being in a dating space. But then, yeah, diving back into it in good old LA has been interesting.
Yeah, I've heard so many tragic things. And I mean, tragic is like comically tragic. So I'm a little nervous about that part. But, I'm not doing it because I am uncomfortable in being single. I'm very comfortable being single. But who doesn't love going to a new restaurant and just having a conversation with a new person. So I just want to get out there to like explore what's out there. But yeah, I actually have what I call my platonic life partner is my roommate. And so she's also a bisexual woman and we're very comfortable being like homebodies, which is like why I've kind of like, turned down offers to go out to bars and clubs and other things with friends because I'm like, oh, actually like me and my roommate made chicken pot pie and we're going to watch Hannibal again for the 4th time. So like, we're good. So, I like, we do everything together and it's like so cute and wholesome. And we've actually known each other since we were kids. So like, I think 16 years going strong on our friendship. Like we're still doing good and could still do everything together. But we're also like, maybe we should try different things.
Oh, that's so sweet though. I also have like someone who is like my queer platonic life partner and she is also my roommate. One of my best friends from college. And she has a romantic partner who like is like her romantic life partner and I live with both of them, but I feel like I also have a roommate who is like very like familial, like she like we're like sisters, which is funny because that's kind of the opposite of what a lot of historians will say is like, oh, they were roommates, but actually they were in love and they were fucking. And it's like, we are doing that thing where it's like, no, we're actually just roommates and like have a like strong platonic familial bond with this other queer person. And we're not fucking.
It's so true. And honestly, everyone should be jealous of us for having friendships like that because it's so strong and grounded and like such an incredible thing. But we recently, well, for the first time, actually, we did a Christmas card. And we took like a really silly photo that like looks like it could be a painting. We got dressed up and it was really cute and adorable. And we sent out Christmas cards kind of like jokingly just to reconnect with some friends. And one of my friends who's also a queer woman, she sent me a text and she was like, thank you so much for this Christmas card. Thank you for sharing this portion of your life with me. And I think she thought that it was like an announcement of me and my roommate, like maybe taking the next step in our relationship. And I was like, oh, no. This is just, we're just roommates. And I mean that. But it was very sweet of her.
Me and my roommates have also talked about doing like Christmas cards. And I think it is like, I think it'll be fun. And like, it would definitely be like, we would do like funny, like matching sweaters or something. Yes. But I do think probably I would have to like, just at least prepare myself for a few questions of like, wait, what does this mean? And I'd have to be like, no. This is our household. There's no announcements.
I should have prepared myself. I was like, oh, of course, everyone knows that, this is my roommate. Like they see her on my Instagram all the time. We're best of friends. And then, I was getting the text messages like, wow, like so proud of you. I was like, oh no.
So brave. So brave. Yes. So inspiring. And it is inspiring, but for a different reason.
Because friendship is inspiring.
Friendship is inspiring, yes. It's inspiring to see different relationship configurations, like given as much, like it's a radical thing, actually. It's a radical queer platonic thing to have your friendships be visible. So it is very brave and it is very inspiring, but not in the way that those people were probably thinking about it.
Right. I like that take on it, though. It is.
So I do want to make sure we get to my favorite part of the podcast, which is a very fun game called Gay, Straight, Bi. Gay, Straight, Bi. Where I give you 3 things, and you have to tell me which of them is gay, which of them is straight, and which of them is bi.
That sounds so fun.
So the 3 things I'm going to give you are recovery run, long run, and interval run. Which of them is gay, which of them is straight, which of them is bi.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to say interval run, very gay. That I don't know why, just purely vibes. That feels very gay to me. Recovery run feels straight, It just, it is what it is, straightforward, and that's all there is to it. I'm going to say long run, bi for sure, because even though it sounds like, a monotonous long run, it's actually probably my favorite type, so I'm going to go with bi for that one.
Ah, I love that. I'm trying to think. Mine are a little different, I think. I think I'm going to go for interval run. I'm going to say straight because I don't like those. And I don't like straight people. No, I'm just kidding. I love everybody. Everybody's welcome here.
The truth comes out.
No, but it's like a little like, I don't know. There's something about it. It's like, oh, like, okay, like I don't know. Something about like the athleticism of an interval run feels straight to me. Not that gay people and bi people and LGBT people cannot be athletic. They definitely can. Again, heated rivalry. But I don't know. For me personally, to be athletic feels straight. And so that's how I feel about that one.
I get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the kind of like jock, like I'm going to like push myself. Muscle gays are a thing. It's just my own personal athleticism seems straight to me. The other 2, I think long run is bi, feels bi, definitely. Yeah. Like the kind of.
It just does, right?
Yeah, it just does. It's like you're a longer journey. Like there might be times when you're feeling one way, like you kind of like, you're running, but you're on a bicycle. It's like, oh, like I'll go a little slower, but now I'm feeling like I'm amped up now. I'll go a little faster.
You got to get
long
in the
run.
zone.
I feel like is bi.
You got to adjust. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Recovery run is gay because we're just loose. We're just there to have fun. It's like brunch. Recovery run is like brunch. Loosey-goosey.
You're just vibing. See,
Just
the
vibing.
opposite for me. Intervals are gay because we're at the Pink Pony Club and we need that energy.
I love that. The muscle gay. Well, thank you so much for playing Gay Straight Bi, a game actually brought to us by aforementioned roommate Nkechi, who has amazing ideas. And in order for me to use the game, I have to plug that she is a WGA writer. She is available for staffing and also casting. So please give her a job. She has great ideas.
Shout out to Nkechi for the segment.
Yeah. And then penultimate question. Do you have a favorite piece of bi media or content?
Ooh, well, like I said earlier, all media is bi media if you look at it through the lens of the two main characters are for you and you alone, and you just need to be in the middle of them. But honestly, this is probably such a basic answer. I love Schitt's Creek for David's character because it was probably the first time I saw like a bi character represented in that way. And that was like, so representation matters. That was like so meaningful to me. And I love that, like, you know, they didn't make it about him being any specific type of white. That was just like a part of his identity. So love that. You know, you mentioned Nana, and if I have to throw an anime recommendation in there, it's got to be Skate the Infinity. And so I kind of go back on my own advice because the two characters aren't really gay and they aren't really bi, but there's a lot of yearning, and yearning feels very bi to me. So I'll throw that one in there.
Yearning is very bi. So now for the last question. Where can people find you? Do you have anything you want to plug or promote?
Yeah, so do listen to LA Opera Behind the Curtain or Detras del Telón, wherever you find your podcasts. I'm super proud of those. They're my little podcast babies, and I love them so much. Other than that, I am honestly kind of a fairly private person, but if you're in the Pasadena area, you might catch me running around these hills.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming by.
I was so glad to. Thank you so much, Alex, for having me.
She Comes By is part of the Industry Plant Podcast Network. It's hosted by me, Alex Mannix, and edited and executive produced by Josh Stretton Carlson. If you're interested in more bisexual content, check out the She Comes By weekly newsletter at shecomesbyweekly.substack.com. That's shecomesbiweekly.substack.com.